Hey guys! Okay, this is my next live recording, and it's for hitting 1,200 subscribers. You guys are awesome! So, oops, I guess I should have, there we go. Now, this one is, it's not actually a pasta. It's a story that I found a long time ago on East of the Web, and it's called Keys, Locks, and Open Doors. Quiet the dog, house the pony, and bar the door against the dark. Each night we heard and obeyed Pa's telling, and each morning we awoke safe, forgetting the terrors of the night in the new sun's warm shine and our breakfast bread. Then Ma and Pa sickened bad. Then Ma sickened bad, and Pa carted her to Biddy make pieces for a laying on of hands. Remember, he instructed Rory, be sure and lock up tight come nightfall. I promise faithful, Pa, I heard my oldest brother say. But come the dark, he was out sparking Lucy Love Dance, and Sim was left in charge. And Sim paid no heed to tellings. Waste of time, locking every door. Sick of peeing in pea pots, me, and double sick of cleaning 'em each morn. I begged him to do as our father said, but he only laughed, did Sim. So I took the bairns to bed with me, making certain my door was locked and the shutters firmly barred. And in the morn, on rising to oven the bread, I found the outer door wide open, and no sight nor sign of Sim. When Rory rolled in, lazy-eyed and rough, I told him all, and he went in search. Was still out when Pa arrived home that noon. I recounted Pa the tale, and he heard me out, grim-faced, but shook his head when I asked him if he was going hunting out for Sim. No point, he said. Now get the dinner served. Rory came back as we were finishing the stew. Pa cuffed him hard about the head and wouldn't let him speak or eat the portion I'd kept by. Then Pa coughed and cleared his throat. And when we looked at him, he told us Ma had died with the sinking of the day. Padre Filton had her resting in the church, he said, to be dug in on the morrow. Then he handed me the ring of household keys, and Rory watched, all squinty-eyed and pinched, knowing that by rights, as eldest, they should have been passed to him. I held on to the keys, my two hands fighting the cold, heavy weight that tried to drag them to the beaten earth. And as I clutched them so, I studied them. I saw that each key, large or small, was welded firmly onto the iron circlet. I held there in my hands the keys to every chest and every door within Pa's holding. They were my responsibility till Father relieved me of the charge. I was now the guardian, he said, seeing as I had a mind to keep the young'uns safe and obey his word's full strength, unlike some who should know better. At first light, Pa stowed the spades and lifted the girls into the cart. May took charge of the reins, while me and Pa and Rory walked, holding to the sides. When we reached the graveyard, me and Pa and Rory took turns to open up the flinty ground, while the bairns ranged about for pretties to place inside the grave. Then Pa and Padre placed her in. Padre said the binding words, my 3 sisters mewling and moaning and dropping in daisy buds onto the muslin shroud. And my brother and I filled back the gritty soil and watched Pa and Padre Filton lay the blessed ironstone slab athwart her lying place to keep her safe. And when it was all done, and Pa had paid the burial toll, we set out straight for home. This time, Eve in silence held the reins, and all else walked to save the aging mule. Once home, I warmed the stew pot and we ate. After food, Pa and Rory worked on the land, while I, with my sister's help, cleaned and sewed and baked. At day's end, Pa watched to see how I locked the doors and shutters against the coming of the night, and nodded satisfied when it had been done. And that night, with the keys hard beneath my thin flock pillow, I heard the voices clearly for the first time. They sounded loud and plain outside my shuttered window, begging me to open up and come to them. And one of the voices was my brother Sim's. Another sounded lighter, like my ma's. But mindful of my father's words, I held to the keys and kept the shutters barred. And gradually, the voices drifted quiet, and sleep took me down. And ever after, it was as if Ma and Sim had never been. Pa never spoke of them, and turned aside all questions, and he never spoke to Rory, save for yes or no. After a month of this silence, Rory left to marry Lucy Makepeace and spend his strength in her family's flour mill. I watched Pa's face set harder, carven lines of wrinkles digging valleys in his leathered skin. And I went outside all day to take my brother's work share, and then cooked and baked all eve. My sister May took duty for the house and the twins all day. From the very time that Rory left our home, Pa shifted all his custom to Marlin's mill. Though, being over in the next valley, it was a longer trek to take the grain, and the mule was far from strong. For me, most nights, the voices came. The voices Pa said were only in my head. He gave me quintain boiled in honey to make me sleep, but the taste was harsh and cast a dullness over me the following day. But I pretended to drink to keep from causing strife. And my questions grew, filling my brain to bursting point, till at last I took my thoughts to Padre Filton in the secrecy of disclosing hour. He refused to look me in the eye, and talked of devils and temptations. Then he broke the holy pact, and betrayed the questions to my Pa. And Pa bound my mouth with garlic cloth, and he beat me until my skin was bruised and split, and snatched back the keys until I could walk again. And with the keys in Pa's hands, I found that I slept quiet nights I heard no sounds, quested not for dimly recognized voices, but only slept soft sleep. When I was fit again, he gave me back my guardianship of keys, and the first night I slept upon their bulk, I heard scratchings at my wooden shutters, and the moaning of what might have been the wind. At first light, on going to running the spring to cleanse my chamber pot, I walked the long way round, past my chamber window, and saw score marks bit deep into the ebony wood shutters. I felt the chill of night come on me, despite the warming of the sun. But I kept my counsel, and Pa had replaced the wood by noon. That night, I kept the dog inside my room, putting him at the foot of my bed. And though I heard a lone voice keening and crying out my name, the dog, he didn't stir. The weeks turned, and I learned to sleep with stopping in my ears. May and the Barons cast off their childhood with frightening speed, and Pa rarely spoke outside the meeting house and took to reading sermon books. But I would not go to meetings anymore, and Pa ignored my backsliding. As long as I did my work and kept safely on As long as I did my work and kept safety on my mind, he seemed satisfied. Then Widow Range took sick. She and her daughter lived a scant 2 fields away from us, and Tildy asked my help to nurse her, and Pa said I was to go. So I gave him back the keys. I went to sit with Tildy. But like my ma, the widow sank fast and died swift as the sun did sink. Tildy begged for me to go to church with her and stand vigil till the morn. And I went with her and Padre Filton into the church as night fell down upon us. That long night passed in dull, dead, numbing coldness. I heard no outside sounds, no moans, no skirl of wind, but only the praying Padre thanking his God for the ironwood and the ironstone that kept us safe from harm. We buried Widow Range, like Ma, as soon as we could when the sun had risen above the mountains. Me and Tildy did the digging, but it took all 3 of us to drag the heavy holding stone across the grave. Padre wore his leather gauntlets, but me and Tildy had to do without. And sore, rough, bleeding work it was. But still, he took the full toll into his strong-gloved hands when the burial was done. He then took us into his wagon and dropped us to our homes as he went on his praying rounds. And that night, with the keys once again beneath my head, I heard voices calling in the dark. And the loudest one sounded like Widow Range. I took care to go to meeting with Pa and the barons the next morn, but left the service before time, pleading my bowels. I walked then to Widow Range's grave, and saw her capping stone was out of line. I'd helped lay it, and I knew full well it was not the same. And now, tonight, I sit and wait the voices. My shutters are opened wide, my bedroom door unlocked, my binding keys thrown deep within the spring. The house is open to what may come, and I am also ready. I will heed this call. I will leave the confines of my Father's house and join that which awaits outside. And as I go, I call to the barons, my sisters, to come and join the free.